7 football players who smoke in real life. Could it be that the GOAT himself is also a smoker? Despite their strict training regimes and healthy lifestyles, these 7 football players have been caught smoking in real life. From pitch to the pack, our first football player got addicted to cigarettes. Well, the question here is how? And why did he start smoking? Well, it must be quite interesting to know that anxiety hits you hard sometimes. One of the hardest dudes in the game has to be Mario Balotelli. He has been the center of controversies and scandals since forever. Despite the many goals he has scored for his country and clubs, and him jumping from one club to another, what remained the same were his cigarettes. In 2014, after losing in the World Cup, he was seen smoking during his vacations. His smoking habits can be well understood from the fact that for his contract with AC Milan, a no smoking or drinking clause was added. But as soon as he changed clubs and moved to Russia, he was caught smoking again right before his debut. Even during his days at Manchester City, he was known to smoke 2 cigarettes before every single match, even during training sessions, as said by Les Chapman, the former hitman of Manchester City. Yes, before every match. If you think this was too much for him, you should check out the other player in line who has been caught several times and doesn't care about any rumor in this regard. Well, who is he? Yes, I'm talking about Wojciech Szczesny. As they say, the first time it's a mistake, but the second time it's a choice. He has been the goalkeeper of several big teams like Arsenal. After his games, you might be thinking that he would be putting extra effort into his mind and reflex practices, but you're wrong here. He keeps on catching cigars instead. He was so invested in smoking that he has got bad press behind him and tons of fines lined up just because of his smoking. But who cares about all of this when your manager is on your side? But wait for it. We're talking about the Polish goalkeeper Szczesny, who was unlucky with his Arsenal manager too. In 2015, these cigarettes were the reason he was fined $20,000 and kicked out of Arsenal. Wenger, the Arsenal boss, lost it with him after losing the Southampton match, when he was seen puffing in the dressing room. Later in 2016, it was again the reason for him being dropped even after the 5-1 loss against Barcelona. All of this happened just because of his cigarette addiction. This was not the end. Even in Euro 2020 Cup, when Poland needed a ray of hope from this one match, they just needed to protect the team from losing. He lit up a cigarette right before the match on the team's bus. Though he didn't get a fine and Poland was saved with a 1-1 draw, it still proved that Szczesny was ready for any horror coming his way just for a cigarette. Now, you must be wondering, is every player in football smoking because it's an intense sport where stress and anxiety hit you hard before matches? But most football players have a lot of good habits, like Cristiano Ronaldo, who chugs down 6 high-protein meals a day and has cryotherapy sessions. Wow, so Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't smoke, but instead spends his time in a frozen chamber, does some meditation, and subscribes to the channel. So why don't you do the same? I guess that's one way to chill out before a game. Well, what's your guess? Could it be Messi? He does have a bad eating habit after all. Watch till the end to find out. Did you ever think there could be a football player who's also a chain smoker? Next up, we're talking about a player who is built different, with an insanely bad habit of smoking 200 cigarettes in a row. You know who that chain smoker is? Well, none other than Raheem Sterling. But why? Let me spill the beans. The man had been on a roll with Liverpool, hitting one after the other. But at the end of his contract, he got many offers. And to clear his mind, he went out clubbing and puffed down 4 shishas. Now, if we're talking about that scientifically, smoking 1 shisha is equivalent to 200 cigarettes, making it around 800 cigarettes in one night. He ended up signing with Manchester City, which turned out to be a good move for him. But not everyone is as lucky as him. The list hasn't ended yet. The next player was also a chain smoker. Wanna guess who? Well, he is hands down the best French goalkeeper of all time, Fabien Barthez. You weren't ready for that revelation, right? I know! He has been the savior in so many matches for his team. He was the shining player until he moved to England and ended up with a change of habits. Despite being caught by his coach, Sir Alex Ferguson, he chose to ignore his mistake as the team needed him direly at that time. And the coach wasn't ready to give up his place to a substitute. This resulted in him becoming one of the heaviest smokers in football history. This man achieved a lot, but he could have done much better in his career if it wasn't for his smoking. Despite this all, at least he wasn't smoking on the pitch, right? Well, just imagine your bad habits become the obstacle to achieving your goals. That's actually heartbreaking and saddening. The next one down on our list is the one who lost the chance of a golden contract just because of his bad habit of smoking. I'm talking about Radja Nainggolan. He was one of the most popular smokers in football, and this smoking habit had become a part of his lifestyle. He was the upholding driving force for Roma and Inter Milan. There was a time when he was talking with the assistant manager. Later, he signed for Royal Antwerp, a lower league in Belgium. At this point, it seemed like he had taken things a bit too casually. During one of the games, he was caught on camera live huffing on the benches. Yes, you heard that right, during the game and right before getting substituted. After this match, he was fired for an indefinite period. The club gave an official statement about his behavior, conduct, and negative influence on the team. Nainggolan had an easy escape from this because he was convinced that he wasn't ashamed of his smoking. But after this incident, he couldn't recover his career. Yikes! It seems like his career took a sour turn. Seeing Raha like this reminds me of Marco Verratti. Well, as a football fan, I know it's sad to see a very fine and talented player wasting his talent because of his bad habits like smoking and drinking alcohol. Well, surprisingly enough, this bad habit of his did not get in the way of his performances on the pitch. He began his youth career at Pescara, an Italian football club. Well, someone as talented as him deserves a bit of entertainment after the fine sport. But smoking might not always be the right option, and he learned that the hard way. He had been the most underrated midfielder of his generation, but he was caught partying hard, smoking and drinking all night at Neymar's birthday party in 2020. But in 2022, this took a bigger toll when he was on his way to practice. He smoked a joint in the car and was caught on camera by his fans. He was criticized badly on the internet for this. In his statement defending himself, he explained he didn't want to be judged for anything outside the game. Now, if this stuff so far was shocking to you, then the second to last one on the list will blow your mind. Well, it's time for our top reveal. The player who was badly addicted to smoking. But not anymore, so chill guys. Yes, you guessed it right. It's none other than your Messi. Besides his bad eating habits, smoking has now also appeared on his list. While this superstar was smoking on purpose as his stress reliever, the next one had it as an addiction. An uncontrollable addiction that, if he had not passed his addiction at that time, it might have cost him his whole career. I'm talking about the best footballer of all time and the winner of the GOAT debate after this year's World Cup. None other than Lionel Messi. This all happened at the very start of his career, but he soon realized his smoking problem, junk food diet, and partying all night needed to stop. So he shifted to a healthy lifestyle and soon turned his life around, becoming the best footballer of all time. Well, lastly, moving on to the end of our list is the greatest Dutch player ever born, Johan Cruyff. A player who wasn't made for football, but rather, football was made for him. The shocking revelation for you guys is that he was a chain smoker, and guess what? lung cancer actually led to his demise. Truly heartbreaking. This man had conquered football in its entirety. He had single-handedly won all of the greatest titles in football except a World Cup. No one can deny his contribution to the beautiful game, both as a player and a coach. He is regarded as one of the GOATs alongside Maradona and Pelé. But what puts him at the top of this list was that he was one of the heaviest chain smokers. And when I say heavy, I mean 20 cigarettes a day. Whoa! That's a huge number, isn't it? He must have needed it for releasing all the stress of the game. But what's even more fascinating is that this number doubled when he took over the role as a coach. You heard it right, 40 cigarettes a day. I can't even imagine the color of his lungs at that time. Little did he know that this habit was turning his lungs to ash-black coal and would soon become the reason for his death. Finally, in 1991, while fighting a battle with lung cancer, cigarettes became the reason for his demise. Well, if you found this video interesting, then click here to know more in-depth realities of the football world.